in Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and Editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
Hey, all right. Hey, for some reason or another, I can't hear myself in my headphones. So, there we are. Yeah, now I've got feedback. I can hear myself now. All right, this is Mike Alexander and Josh Jacobs tonight. Josh, glad you could join us again.
My pleasure, Mike.
All right, and we also, Jonathan Wilson had other things this evening, delayed because we had a huge event over here at Verdugo Hospital in the community affairs room. We'll talk more about that later. It was our drafting convention for school choice. It was exciting. We've got a great show prepared for you here tonight. Lots of issues to talk about. And if you'd like to be part of the show, the number here is 866-870-5752. Our lines are wide open, and the lovely Miss Brooke is answering our phone this evening. We have Jeff on the board, one of the best in the business, so we're ready to go here tonight. The major issue coming up, ladies and gentlemen, on this evening's program is Measure EE.
Extreme error.
Extreme error. And Measure EE is coming up here this Tuesday. That's a couple of days from now. And any of you who resides in a city where you are your schools are part of the Los Angeles Unified so-called School District, you are about to be taxed out of your house. This Measure EE is designed to raise approximately $500 million per year. It may be less than that, but at least $300 to $500 million a year for the next 12 years and even beyond to go into a failed so-called school system called LAUSD that is on the brink of being taken over by either the county or by the state of California. Its schools are the worst of the worst, and they claim, contrary to all evidence, that somehow if we give them more money, they're going to do the job better. There's no record that giving public school districts, more money results in better educational outcomes. It just doesn't. And these, they have a 50% dropout rate in the high schools in LAUSD. Actually, there's a bright side to that because at least those kids aren't sitting there listening to that liberal garbage coming out of their mouth, all that commie indoctrination that characterizes these schools, and the flat-out boredom of listening to people. You got two people who don't want to be there. The teachers and the students. The students would just as soon be gone, and the teachers would rather not be there. They just rather get their check. They're forced to operate in a terrible school system. Those are the good teachers, and the bad ones just don't care. So it's a failed system, and really, ladies and gentlemen, why not just take all of this money, divide it up evenly, give the money to the parents, and let them go make educational choices. And that's what school choice is all about. And that's why our top priority, and I hope it's your top priority, is to pass school choice in 2020. Josh.
And the LA Daily News just reported this week that the LA Unified School District, along with United Teachers Los Angeles, says that tax or no tax increase, if you pass or don't pass EE, they're going to go after more taxes. They want to tax you even more. Yeah. So this is not the end. This would be just the beginning. So starve the beast, as they say.
That's right.
And if you have any friends who live in Los Angeles, unfortunately I don't, but tonight after the show's over with, I'm going to email all my friends that I know of in Los Angeles, urging them this Tuesday, June 4th to vote no on Measure EE because it's going to be a very low turnout. We've got to get like-minded libertarians, conservatives, free thinkers, classic liberals who actually care about our students, not these, illiberal leftists that run the UTLA and the LAUSD to get out and vote.
That's right. Yeah, and just to show you, how bad. By the way, this measure is really important, and everybody in the state, anybody who's listening here, you need to understand this not as a school issue, not as a good government or a tax issue. This is a basic government issue, and this goes to the heart of what's going on. We have to recognize that what passes for school, what passes for education, is just a scam. That's the pretext to get your money. That is how they build and maintain and leverage and manipulate a large number of public employees to achieve certain specific goals. That's what they do in the Los Angeles Unified School District. It is a political enterprise. It is a business enterprise. It is not under any circumstances, however, an educational enterprise. And if there's anybody out there who thinks that thinks differently, I'd love to hear from you. It is absolutely crazy. And I got one guy calling in, but we'll get to him in a minute here. First of all, I want to let you know that this Measure EE is bad. And it's one of those Johnny Carson routines. How bad is it? Well, it's so bad that even the Los Angeles Times, to which I refer to them affectionately as LA Pravda, and I have for years.
The Left Angeles Times.
The Left Angeles Times. Even these guys are now reporting some of the negatives. And the headline this morning is here. LAUSD says it needs the Measure EE tax. Skeptics say the district has a spending problem. Oh, they found one guy with a room temperature IQ whom they're willing to quote here. And that, that goes without saying here. For example, and I want to tell you this. Here's what's going to happen under a Measure EE. They're going to impose a 16 cents per square foot of improved interior space, excluding parking areas, on every square foot of your home. So for a 1,500 square foot home, that works out to $240 a year. And that tax, they claim, will raise about $500 million a year. But it's going to raise a heck of a lot more on apartment buildings. Now, the thief in chief here, that would be Buettner. Isn't that his name?
Buettner, yeah, Austin Buettner.
Austin Buettner. All right. Yeah, you call in here. We'd love to talk with you. But at any rate, this guy was trying to scam the taxpayers, and he sent out exemption forms. So apparently under the act, which I haven't seen all of the language on that, but under this measure, supposedly persons 65 or older, disabled, or whatever it is, can apply for an exemption from this tax. Well, that's fine and dandy for those people who are 65 and older and own their own homes, but there is no such exemption for people who are retired and live in apartments, who lease or rent homes, apartments, or condominiums from anybody else. That tax will be imposed on the owners. It will be collected, and it will be passed on to you in your rent. So now the question is, are there more retired people, more people over 65 who own their own homes here in Los Angeles, or more people over 65 who rent their homes or lease their homes? So you know as well as I do what the answer to that is. You're being hustled. It's just like all government. This measure here is nothing but a fraud, a hustle, and a con. And it's so bad that they can't get everybody to go along with it. And there's lots of people who are starting to look askance at the whole system and wonder whether there isn't some thing that we can do. Now, how does this work? This is a parcel tax, and under California law, it has to get 2/3 of the voters voting to pass. What does that mean in practice? Is that 2/3 of the registered voters? No, Professor. No, it is 2/3 of the voters voting. So if you are opposed to this bill, your vote is actually worth 2. If you go out there and vote, it's going to take 2 to beat you. Got it? So if you go out there and you vote against this measure, we have an excellent chance of pushing it back. And we need to deprive them of this money, because until we make the money go away, these institutions will take no steps to reform themselves. And in the last negotiation, the United So-Called Teachers of Los Angeles entered into this the settlement agreement. And under that settlement agreement, they made promises to their teachers for wages and catch-ups and new hires of money that they didn't have. And they knew then, when they were going for this contract, that they would have to have Measure EE to do it. So you see, they've incurred a debt. They say, we don't have the money to pay these teachers. And what do you think is going to be the next word out of their mouth if for any reason they don't get it? It'll be the L word. Layoffs. Oh, yeah. They'll send home those little pink things, not those hats that they wear at the rallies, but pink slips home with the kids, that their teachers are going to be laid off and all this sort of thing. Total nonsense. We're being hustled at all times. Yes, sir.
The thing is that you look at these teachers' unions, they claim we are running out of money. Well, how come they have the money to spend on all these ads to pass Measure EE? Yet they claim to care about these teachers. That how come you're not giving the money to the teachers? If you really do care about the teachers are paying these union dues every single week.
Right.
Yet the money is not going to help the teachers. Like, for instance, when they're on strike or if they've been let go because of cuts,
right.
How come the UTLA doesn't help the teachers monetarily with like some sort of benevolence fund? How come they just spend most of their money on politics rather than helping teachers?
Well,
the teachers are getting hurt by this as well.
This is another bad part of what's going on out there with this measure. You should be aware that the Los Angeles Unified So-Called School District is also spending money to inform, quote-unquote, the public. That's basic electioneering. They're campaigning. They're trying to persuade voters to vote for this. That is strictly illegal under California law. It's been challenged. The County of Los Angeles has been challenged on their Measure H, which was a transportation measure. And by the way, this particular measure is currently being challenged in court by the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association on behalf of taxpayers. They're challenging it because Butner changed the text of the bill after the board had voted on it. So language has been put before voters that was not approved by the school board as required by law. These people are just lawless. They just do whatever the hell they want, and we're expected to go along with. So don't take the bait. Now, now, Josh, I think you mentioned earlier in the program, but what is it that people should do today, to get out the vote? We're late in the game, but people aren't paying attention. So if you do what Josh suggests here, we're going to win. Josh.
Well, first of all, if you do have Facebook, make sure to post it on Facebook. If you have Twitter, retweet it. We can go to our website at 2020 Choice on Twitter. But the most important thing, the thing that will reach the most friends, is to email your friends that live in Los Angeles, whether they be libertarian, conservative, moderate, classic, liberal. Heck, even some people on the left are opposing this bill. So
yes.
It's not just conservatives that are supporting it. It's a whole array of, or rather opposing it, a whole array of people are opposing this. So email your friends and let them know to vote on this coming Tuesday, June 4th, even if you don't live in Los Angeles. If you have friends that do, email them.
Right.
That'll get the word out. And the social media companies can't censor that or squelch it because it's your own email.
That's right. And it's very fashionable among left-wingers and sob sisters to talk about rent control. But this tax is a direct increase in everybody's rent, because you have to realize is that when you buy a house and you pay property taxes, all you're doing is renting your own property back from the government. And if you have a small business or you're a tenant, hey, how about all the folks in South Central Los Angeles? How about everybody in East Los Angeles? Everybody in this school district? Well, I got news for you. Every store owner is getting a rent increase from the government. They're going to increase. That's what a tax is, and that tax is going to be passed on to the kids who come in to buy candy, to the families that come in to buy milk and everything else. Prices are going up because the cost of government is going up. So vote against this nasty bill. Now, we have one call here. I don't know if it's on topic or not, but I'm going to talk to my friend Carlos from Carson. How are you this evening, Carlos? I almost called you Carson.
Well,
Carlos?
Mike, I'm so thankful that you're spreading the word on this insidious piece of legislation, EE.
Yes.
And I'm going to do as you suggested, send out some emails and Facebook, and let's see where we go from here. But I'm so glad you're putting out the word. It's a very insidious piece of legislation. It's horrible, and, I own a couple of properties. It's going to hit me in the pocketbook terribly.
Are your properties in the LAUSD school district? You're in Carson.
Right.
Are your properties in the city of LA or LAUSD?
Well, yeah, I own a couple of units in South Central, so that's going to hit
there you
me
go.
there. And they're constantly undergoing repairs because of the city inspection. So I can imagine when I start doing repairs, I'm going to incur that 16 cents per tax,
right?
Which is horrible. I mean, I barely make a profit out of the property.
That's
this
right.
Is going to detract away from it. So it's horrible. I'm going to do as you suggested, and I know a few investors, real estate investors. I used to be in real estate. I know a few that own property down there. I'm going to let them know and just spread the word. Maybe we can still beat this thing.
Yes.
But, on another topic here, another horrible piece of legislation is H.R. 838, which is being proposed. It's called the Threat Assessment Act, being proposed by Marco Rubio. I don't know if he's a Democrat or Republican, but it's a very
he's a Republican
piece of legislation also, in that it proposes a task force to assess the threat, the potential threat from anybody, men, women, children, as to proclivity towards violence.
Uh-huh.
They're going to assess everybody and arrest people who they deem the government arbitrarily decides, well, this person is going to be a threat. Let's arrest them.
Yeah.
It's just like the movie that came out from Tom Cruise made a movie about that, several years ago. I forget the name of it. But it was going into the pre-crime situation. This is pre-crime, and if they think you have some potential for committing a crime, they're going to arrest you before you do it.
Yeah, well, keep taxing us.
A lot of mistakes.
Keep taxing us, Marco, and you'll find out.
Right. So I got
these guys don't
Marco
get it.
Rubio's name.
Yeah.
He should be. Well, people like that are clearly committing sabotage and espionage against this nation. These people like that should be arrested.
Yeah.
As well as people like George Soros.
You're talking about Marco Rubio. Yeah, well, I don't think we want to go around arresting senators, but there's a reason that we have a Senate and a legislature, is so these bad ideas can be brought forward and sorted out and rejected. So it's our job as citizens to do that. And this brings up the central issue always of the major problems we have in our society. The issues that you've raised here, Carlos, come about for a lot of reasons. But a big part of the reason why you have the level of political consciousness and awareness that you have is a kind of education that you've had. The time that you grew up, the schools that you attended, the values that then prevailed, the news media, and the prevailing culture. Those issues no longer exist, and sometimes I wonder whether any of our young people growing up are able to assess the threat that such legislation presents to us and our liberties. There's no longer a liberty perspective or a personal freedom perspective. That's what we in Conservative Talk Radio are trying to get across, and this is why we have to change our education in the United States to free it up and to move that education away from the control of the government. Because bear in mind, the same people, and this is the government, the same people who would conduct the threat assessment are also the same people, the government, who are in charge of children's and students K through 12 and beyond. They're all the same people. And we used to have a proper suspicion of such size and power in government. We used to believe that the essence of constitutional government and the American tradition was a government that was only as large as it needed to be to safeguard our liberties, not to assure the reelection of a particular candidate or political party. So if we're going to get back to the point to where you and I are able to make these arguments and expect them to be heard, we have to change the education in this country. We have to put education back in the hands of the parents. Otherwise, we've had an entire nation that has conditioned ourselves to accepting this kind of thing. This never would have been proposed 50 years ago. Threat assessment?
Yes, and it's like you're saying, the education has got to get back to the parents.
Right.
But unfortunately, the government, through their influence in the school system, has taken that authority from the parents.
Yes.
Parents are afraid to direct their children because the children have been ingrained with this concept of child abuse.
Yes.
Which they report to the school. So any admonition from the parent to set some limits, some proper limits on the child so that the child can grow up understanding responsibilities and limits,
right,
is going to be construed by the child as child abuse. You'll go back and report it to the schools. Before you know it, you got the social workers who are gullible social workers who think they're doing their duty, and they come here and extricate the kid from the home,
right,
and send it to a juvenile center. And there you go, more government brainwashing of the child. It continues and to the point where a lot of these children, once they get into the juvenile system, become criminals.
Well, that's right. It's a school. It's a graduate school for punks. They go in there, they learn how to boost, how to sell dope, how to burgle, you name it. Anybody who's ever had anything to do with that system knows that children don't do better in juvenile facilities than they do at home. And I know that there's a fair amount of real child abuse out there, but this foster home system is no great glory either. It is absolutely outrageous. And poor and minority parents, minority parents, people don't speak the language, or poor people just can't afford a lawyer. They get railroaded by the government. They get swept into these bureaucracies, and this is happening to us no matter who we are. It's just absolutely outrageous. Jeff, how many more minutes do we have, sir? Got 3 minutes. Okay. I'm going to thank you for your call, Carlos. I'm going to go on and cover a couple of other things. And I know we've got my good friend Brent waiting here to speak, and we'll catch him in the next half hour here after the bottom of the hour. But right now, I want to remind you to go out there and vote against double E. And by the way, for those of you who'd like to be part of the program in the next half hour, be sure to call us at 866-870-5752. Now, we're going to continue our issues here, but if you really want to understand how power works in the state, there was another article here in the Los Angeles Times today that you would be very interested in. And it was kind of an inside, promo here. It was all fun. It was an article by, of, and for Democrats in the deep state. And this headline was here, California Democratic Party elects Rusty Hicks as chairman. Now, this is,
I didn't think there were any Hicks in the Democratic Party because isn't the Republican Party the party with all the Hicks?
I know. He's got.
I guess he's their token Hick.
This is him, man, and he's got this cute little nickname. They call him Rusty. Now,
speaking of redneck,
that's right. So for our political audio visual double of the day, can you guess what the occupation is of Rusty Hicks? Right? Yes, you guessed it. He is a Los Angeles labor leader, don't you know? So this guy here
is he best buddies with Richie Trumka?
Probably. Oh yeah, all these guys know each other. They probably hot tub together and go to wherever together.
Smoke cigars,
but he took over. Yeah, right. He took
or vape cigars.
He is the current president of, guess what? The Los Angeles County Federation of Labor. There you go. So, hey, that music that you hear in the background means that we've come up on the end of our first half hour. I want to thank you for participating. Stay with us past the second one. Don't forget, we've got our Government Grifter of the Week award coming up at the end, just before 9:30 tonight. So stay with us. Josh Jacobs, Mike Alexander, back with you after the break.
Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, I am live. This is Mike Alexander and Josh Jacobs, Radio Free Los Angeles. If you'd like to be part of the program here tonight, the number to call is 866-870-5752. You can be part of this program. And, before I get to my good friend Brent, I want to go back to this seemingly innocuous article here about who was elected as chairman of the California Democrat Party. So this guy's name is Rusty Hicks, cute little first name, intended to make him very precious and charming and so forth. But this guy is the president of the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor. Well, there's a reason why they hired this guy, and that's because the heart and the soul of the Democrat Party will be found in public employees. And when they, of course, he's coming in because of this other guy, Eric Bauman, was apparently, he had to resign because of a series of sexual harassment allegations and all this typical nonsense. And he claims he's going to make it so it can't happen again. Lies all the time. It's going to be whatever it is. But they are really, their focus here is trying to stabilize the organization and get ready for the March presidential primary to help get Trump out. Well, I don't know how much work there is to do here in the state of California to beat Trump in California. So what do you think it's all about? Well, what it's all about, it's not about Trump at all. Everybody pay attention now or you'll miss it. What this is about is the government employees consolidating their control over the party, which is also the majority party in the state of California, and then expecting that political apparatus, their bosses, right? Presumably their bosses, to exercise independence in reviewing the compensation, reviewing the performance, reviewing the staffing, reviewing everything on the part of public employees. So in other words, there is no difference. There isn't 1 inch of daylight between organized labor, that is government employees, and the Democrat Party. And it's all, and the same could almost be said of the Republican Party, particularly at the local level. So this is what I've been trying to get across to all of you over this time, is that it's a business, and if you peel away all the policy, peel away all the politics, you see the very, very hard-nosed, tough economic business that is inside these political arrangements. And that's why I say the first job of government is to grow itself. That's Principio Politica number 1. And Principio Politica number 2 is each and every government employee is a paid partisan political activist. And I give this to you as Exhibit A, proof positive, case closed. You see what happened here, and they realized that government employees are the Democrat Party, they are the government, and vice versa. Join to them also the elected representatives at the congressional level. Graft onto that also the media. Everybody knows about Mark Levin's new book. I encourage you to buy it and read it. It's a wonderful book, Unfreedom of the Press. But you see, that's the cabal that we're looking at. And you won't get any perspective. This article here in the LA Times was nothing more than rah-rah inside baseball, talking about it. Oh, I mean, they're just basking in it. And they had, up at the California Democratic Convention, man, talk about a freak show. If I'd had time, I'd have gone there just to take pictures. And apparently, what was it, Kamala Harris here?
At a Move On stage event, Kamala Harris, somebody stormed the stage, and grabbed the microphone from Kamala Harris there.
Right. They called him a lunatic.
Some lunatic, the headline said lunatic storms the stage. This was from the Gateway Pundit. So they actually call him a lunatic.
Yeah, call him a lunatic, right. Somebody got up there, the only body with any brains in the room, got up there, took the microphone away from Kamala Kami Harris. They call him a lunatic, right? Yeah, and it's just a pantheon of freaks and nuts and extremists and communists in that room, and they call that guy a lunatic.
And Pelosi gets heckled throughout the speech by unhinged leftists at California Dem Convention was another headline.
One unhinged leftist to the other, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, although Nancy Pelosi was probably putting them to sleep, maybe they're trying to get the crowd to wake up.
I know, man. Is that face scary or what? Hey, let's go to my friend Brent. He wants to
Makes you wonder why people get Botox, right?
I know. Hey, Brent, are you there?
Yes. Hello, Mike. Hi, Josh. And I guess John's not in today?
No, Jonathan is not. I was hoping that you could have joined us today for our drafting convention. And when you and I get through chatting, I'm going to talk to the audience here about a very exciting day that we had with about 50 people who were there to participate in our drafting session on the school choice initiative for 2020. But you called to talk about something else, Brent. Fire away.
Yes. I was thinking the Disneyland of my childhood that I've loved for over a half century.
Yes.
It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Walt's work of art, craft, fantasy, and innocence went up in flames last week like Notre Dame Cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
This Marxist multicultural Disney corporation, they're demanding that Georgia must be forced to kill its children or face a boycott like Israel faces the BDS boycott.
Right.
Disney has gone to war with our children.
Yes.
This is the most surreal thing of all the companies, of the place that was for children, for childhood, for innocence. It's now demanding abortion. It's just unreal.
Yes,
and
but nothing new about this. I think a couple of reactions. I have a couple of reactions to your question.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, is that Iger's behavior, what he did, is not different in kind from Nasty Pelosi's behavior on the impeachment issue. What do I mean by that?
Right.
What I mean is that each of them are surrounded by a certain retinue of absolute nutcases who demand ideological conformity, and they demand that their ideology take precedence over any other consideration, whether it's constitutional considerations or the best interests of their shareholders. That's my first reaction. The second reaction is that if you doubt that, then all you have to do is to look at the rest of Disney's behavior, because its liberal sensibilities are not nearly so delicate when it comes to doing business with China, with its one-child forced abortion policies, as Joshua was pointing out earlier. And
also China is putting Muslims into concentration camps.
Right.
Disney's bragging about, hey, we're doing business with China, and just about every Muslim has been rounded off into a concentration camp, even a greater percentage of Muslims than Christians are, and Christians are also being persecuted in China.
And let's not forget the war on Christianity, which is always going on in every communist government. And of course, he does business with a country that is determined to defeat us militarily. He deals with a country who is famous for having stolen its intellectual property for decades and the intellectual property of other producers. I don't think that anything is more frequently stolen than a song or a cartoon or a movie in China. It happens all the time. So their outrage is selective and is designed to respond to the women in their life and the other nutcases that are surrounding them. And just between me and you, I don't care what happens in Georgia. I don't think that the Disney Corporation will lift a finger to do anything different. These are pretty cynical guys. I don't think he believes anything that he's saying for a minute. He just talked with one of his press guys to say, "Oh, geez, I can't. Do I have to deal with this? Yeah, you got to go out there and say this. All right, write it up for me. I'll go out there. I'll even make it sound good."
Yeah,
I think they're very cynical people, Brent.
But yeah, so what you're saying is he's chosen to just spit in the face of Walt Disney.
Yes,
it's I just somehow when a company like Gillette pulls the nonsense they're doing, or Nike, or Starbucks, all of which I won't be frequenting anymore either. With Disney, you somehow, as a child, you expected more, or I did,
right?
And now it is just, it's the worst of what the left likes to demonize as the corporate world, and so Disney is, that used to be a blessing to children. It's now turned into a curse. And I'm just thinking, if money is all they care about, don't take your kids. Well, first, shouldn't take them anyway. The values that are coming out of there are not what they used to be. But don't buy its stock. Don't buy its products. And I think maybe if the American people, the real Americans, boycotted Disney and companies like Gillette and the Starbucks, and one after the other, things might quickly turn around.
Yes, yeah. The place that we want to boycott, though, the institution that's causing most of this damage are the schools. So let's all of us, I can just hear, can you hear eyes rolling into the head? Yeah, maybe that's a bad metaphor, but I can hear and see people rolling their eyes. Will this guy never get off of this shtick? No, I won't, because it's absolutely essential that all of you understand where all of this, or where this begins. The society is conditioned to approve abortion beginning in K through 12. The family is undermined. Children, the birth of a new child is no longer celebrated as part of our culture. The marriage, between mom and dad, the intact family. And boy, did anybody ever make more money off of the intact family than Disney? Mm-hmm. Boy, did they make great movies about families. The Swiss Family Robinson, Did they make Fred Murray's
The Absent-Minded Professor? Great classic movie right there.
Yes.
He also was in a couple of other Disney movies. He
Yes.
was a Disney legend. They had fun films like Herbie the Love Bug. I mean, they did about
Right.
4 of those.
Right.
I saw all 4 of them. I loved them as a little kid.
Sure, these are family movies, family entertainment, and you could always sit down and safely put them on. I mean, my gosh, it was such a fixture in my home. Wasn't it 7 p.m. on Sunday night for the longest time?
The Wonderful World of Disney.
yeah,
Before
it
that
just-
was called The Wonderful World of Color, and
Yeah.
just a great program.
Fantastic, So they've rejected the roots long ago, but there was always a distinction between the two houses of Disney. There was always a struggle. There was the animation people, the family movie people, and then the rest of Buena Vista that wanted to make other kinds of movies and started branching out in the 80s. But they at least kept up the fiction. But one cannot imagine. Disney. Who was the guy that came out? He was there for so many years.
Well, Pixar came along, and Pixar
but
had
there was
a lot of family-friendly
there was a
films.
guy back in the 80s.
Michael Eisner?
Michael Eisner, yeah. I just can't imagine Eisner doing that stuff. But now, the entire world has been politicized, and this is another example of the left grabbing onto an institution, a company, a government, a state, a church, and just completely corrupting that institution, transforming it radically into something very, very different.
Right, and I think the more vocal we are, and the more we point this out about just this demonism that they're involved in.
Yes.
I mean, what's next? Are they going to have George Lucas make a Darth Vader women's health care pavilion at every theme park, where they'll provide abortions, for the visitors?
Yeah, I mean, they and yet as graphic as terrible as as terrible as all of this is, they are the ones who also conspire or work or cooperate, condone the suppression of a movie like Unplanned, which is quite graphic in its description of what actually goes on. And so we can have movies that graphically display as much physiognomy as you can tolerate, sexual activity between men, women, men, women, whatever combo you want to put together with. We can watch all of that, and it's somehow artistic or enlightening. But if you want to show what actually happens when a little baby is dismembered in the womb, well, now we can't do that, though that is what is done all the time, and that is what is done in my name through government funding, whether it's at the federal level or the state level or the local level, or this butchery organization called Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of that too. There could be a Planned Parenthood pavilion at every Disneyland.
Right.
It's like they could have Gosnell the ride. We have to just push it right back into their face and to show America who they are, and especially this monster Igor.
Yes.
I'll just call him CEO Igor. Frankenstein.
That's Igor.
Why isn't he out on the curb? $65 million a year he makes, and they talk about income disparity, where everybody else gets $15 an hour at Disneyland.
Right. Sure.
The place.
And guys like Igor, whatever you want to call him, this guy is in on it, and he's part of any number of the wealthy elite who are willing to go along with anyone and anything, just so long as it keeps them off of him. Right? So, income disparity, nobody should make more than 100 times their lowest paid employee. Well, try that in a movie theater, then no actor should make no more than 100 times the average wage of the person sitting there watching the movie. Apply that over to the ballpark. It's all nonsense. It's BS, and we shouldn't even talk about it. This should be just a 2-word or 2-syllable response. BS.
Mm-hmm. Interesting you mentioned ballpark and sports because ESPN is owned by Disney ABC. Mm-hmm. And just about a month ago, their CEO of ESPN's division said, you know what? I think we got too political. We shouldn't have gotten so political. So basically,
the hell you say?
You're right. I mean, he was right that the ESPN got way too political. And so a lot of sport venues are finally, waking up like, okay, yeah, we did get too political.
Right.
So maybe you're right, Brent, as far as, the thing is, purchase the products that are family friendly rather than the ones that are not.
Right.
Because it's kind of difficult sometimes, but to me, these boycotts of Georgia sound just like those candidates, or not candidates, but those celebrities who said if the Republican candidate for president is reelected, I'm moving to Canada or Ireland or Brazil. How many of those have actually moved to one of those places?
Yeah.
0.
Right. Yeah. It's down to the money. They might do it a little bit, but they'll come back. It's absolute nonsense. Brent, I want to thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
And we look forward to speaking with you the next time. Now, in the time remaining, I want to start covering what we went over at today's drafting convention for school choice. First of all, I want to issue a very, very well, maybe I won't, because if I announce it, maybe they'll catch you some grief. Nah, I'll mention it. What the hell? The Verdugo.
We're on a 7-second delay, in case you change your mind.
Yeah, what the hell? No problem here. We'll go for it. The people at Verdugo Hills Hospital were quite gracious in making available their their community room to our group, as they do to so many groups of various political persuasions. And what they have in common is not a political agenda, but a community benefit agenda, and that is ours. So at our drafting convention today, we had people from all over Southern California, and we also had Dr. Vicki Alger, Alger, who came over from Arizona again to share their experience on school choice, and they've had a modified version of it in Arizona that's worked very well, that focuses on giving scholarship grants or flexible money to people in special categories. Now, those would be underserved schools, underperforming schools, some charter schools, parents of children with certain learning disabilities. So they've been carving out exceptions there. They don't have a pure school choice bill, not like the one that we're drafting here in California. And, we had people from Redlands, people from South Central, people from Northeast Los Angeles. If it matters to anybody, and it doesn't matter to me, but I suppose we have to talk about all this stuff. But we had every color and shade of skin that there is. And I think I know we had libertarians, we had a lot of Republicans, we had Democrats in that room who are concerned about quality education. And they were there to offer their insights at a very detailed level about the specific provisions of this bill. But in the end, the major features of these bills, of this initiative, is as follows. Following the passage of this initiative, the state of California would be required to create an educational savings account, an ESA, for each K through 12 child in the state of California. That's number one. Number two, into that account would be regularly deposited throughout the school year an amount equal to the per capita educational spending in the state of California. That is what we call the Prop 98 funds. And those funds here represent over $15,000 a year per student. Now, even if we add in the other $500,000 that they're not spending money on now, it'll still be right in the area of $15,000 per student per year. Number 3, the parents would be able to use that money so that the child could attend a school of his choice. That could be keep him in the existing public school, go to a charter school if they'll let you in, a private school if you can gain admission, or yes, grab your comfort dogs and your blankets out there. Yes, a parochial school. Number 4, any money that you don't spend in that year, you can save up and use it for other approved educational expenses or for college. All right, now there is a fantastic fantastic thing to do. Now that program, we have a couple of people out there. In fact, I'll give them a shout out. Doug Hauser and his wife, who were there today, and they go to a market night. I don't know if it's a kind of a community walk or some of these communities have beer nights and they're kind of a variation on the farmers market. So they happen at night and they go out there and they talk with scores of people, and they have yet to run into anybody with room temperature IQ who thinks it's a bad idea. And that includes a lot of public school teachers because, as you may or may not know, at least 30% to 35% of school teachers send their kids to private schools. And in bad school districts, it's almost 100%. Hey, that music that you're hearing out there means we're coming to the close of our first hour. We have 1/2 hour to go. We're going to have Government Grifter of the Week with Juan Tierra. He'll call us at the end. And in the meanwhile, we'll continue to take calls. Dave from Whittier will get to you in the next half hour, so stay with us. Mike Alexander, Josh Jacobs, Radio Free Los Angeles.
Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, we are alive. Back with you, Radio Free Los Angeles. Mike Alexander. Jonathan Wilson's not with us tonight, but I do have Josh Jacobs. Welcome back for our last half hour, Josh.
Thanks, Mike. My pleasure.
Glad you could join us. So it looks like we lost our caller up there. If you hear this, you call back in. If you'd like to be part of this program, our lines are wide open here at area code 866-870-5752. Give us a call here and wake up that little gold digger in there. Brooke, give her some work to do. Make her feel useful. We have a lot of fun here, and it's always good to have the group together again on a Sunday night. Wave at me, Brooke, if you can hear me. All right. So she's in there. She'll catch it on the tape delay. At any rate, we've been talking about a number of things, here tonight. And, there's a lot of important stuff to get to. I thought I'd revisit a couple of things here. And you remember here, I don't know whether it was the last week or the week before, that I mentioned the Martin Luther King tapes and the FBI surveillance. And I'm telling you, this article had come through the Daily Mail, which, of course, is a British publication over there. And to my knowledge, There's no American radio station, media company, or anybody else who's picked this up. And I know that it's hot potatoes for them, for the left-wing media. First of all, because it attacks a liberal icon, really an American icon in many ways, a man with many virtues and obviously, as we now know, many limitations. All right,
it's
human
been
being
known for years he was unfaithful to his wife.
Sure.
I knew that.
Yeah,
but that didn't stop me from all the great that he did do.
No, and you and I are not here to litigate. The reason I raised the issue last week was because this was a quintessential case of government surveillance of a private citizen for political purposes. And the last, when this happened, and many other instances happened back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, this country raised hell. And the last time it was perceived that the intelligence agencies had gone out of control, and I say perceived, over their behavior in Southeast Asia, the Vietnam War. It was all caught up in the anti-Vietnam War business. But be that as it may, there used to be great concern in the Democrat Party and among many in the Republican Party over government misbehavior in law enforcement, invasions of privacy. And this is a quintessential example. We would know this if he had not been surveilled by the FBI, and yet all this stuff is right out there on display here at a national level, and we have and it's just crickets. You can't get anybody to get concerned about it. But this habit of surveillance, tracking people's cell phones, using locators to find out who they are, using computer lists to investigate people before you show up and putting pressure on them, registration of weapons, all this sort of thing, massive invasions of privacy. And this used to be this used to concern a lot of people, and not just conservatives. And now it would appear that conservatives are picking up the battle, doing the ACLU's job for you guys. You should, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves out there. This is absolutely outrageous. But let's go back to our school drafting situation. Bear in mind that those are the four key features, and this bill, we're working hard on getting it on the ballot. Now, if you support this or anything that we're talking about, remember, this is listener-sponsored, citizen-sponsored radio, and you need to become part of the solution. We highly recommend that you go to schoolchoice2020.org. Again, schoolchoice2020.org. Go there and sign up, and I'll tell you why, for a number of reasons. First of all, you can't say that you support school choice if you don't support school choice. And remember, this is a massive attack on the government's claims. They stole our children 100 years ago. This is where our problem started. And we're not going to take this country back. We're not going to restore its values unless and until we begin with taking our children back and reclaiming our right to educate our children. As our motto goes, it's our children, it's our money, and it's our choice to make this. So schoolchoice2020.org. Support it because it's a good idea. But number two, and most important, remember, if we're going to qualify this for the ballot, it's going to take $3 to $5 million to get the signatures paid for that we're not able to get voluntarily. And coordinating this act, just putting together the administrative apparatus necessary to manage the votes, the signatures coming in, the printing, the distribution, massively expensive. Now, there are large donors out there. There's big money across the country that would love to support school choice, absolutely love to support it. But if they're going to come to California, which is, in their perception, the toughest political market in the country, one that soaks up money like the desert soaks up blood and water, they want to know that there's real commitment. And their response to me when I ask them for this money is going to be this. So, Mike, you want to know if I'm committed. Well, before I get committed, how committed are you guys? What can you tell me? Well, I'm this and that. Mike, I know you're committed. I know Josh is committed. I know all the people in this room are committed. And, well, I got this email list. Hey, email lists can be bought, Mike. Don't hustle me, man. What do you think you are, the government? Don't hustle me, or I'm smarter than that. Russians manufacture these lists, don't they? Hasn't that been in the news lately? So, how much money you guys got? Who's contributing? Now we're up to it. Well, Mr. Big Donor, we have several hundred, several thousand people, each of whom is contributing $5, $10, $20, or $100 a month to this effort. They're committed. We have people who don't have money, as you define it, and they're committed to their own success. Let's not.
And there's nobody named Igor on our list.
No, there is not. But we have many, many wealthy people out there. You want me to go talk with the Koch brothers or whoever? Yeah, I'll go talk with him. But these guys are hard-nosed business guys. And in the political business, they're just as demanding as they are in their regular business. So they want to know who we are, what we're doing. It's a great idea. And this is the best idea there ever was. Why don't we go after school choice in California? Well, it's the toughest market around. No, it's not. It's the best market in the United States. Why? All right. There are no points if you get the answer right. The answer is because our schools are the worst. The schools are so bad that Democrats will vote for school choice. Now, not the big D Democrats, not this new thief in chief here in California, Rusty. Isn't that a cute little name? Rusty Hicks.
They're
right?
token hick.
Yeah, that's him, man. Yeah, they're not going, Rusty's not going to vote for it. Yeah, all those ideologues at the Democrat convention owned and operated by the teachers union, they're not going to vote for it. But the Democrats with a small D, and those are the working folks. I mean, we all work, but, we're talking about a lot of blue-collar people or lower-paid clerical workers, and really a lot of professional parents who are struggling. They've got their kids in bad schools, and they would love to take that $15,000 per year per kid and put them in a private school, a Catholic school, or take that money and put it with some other money, get them into a real school. We have the opportunity to innovate, to create massive innovation in education right here in California. Remember, we here in California, this is where the future is invented. California is now, always has been, and always will be the future of the United States. We invent the future here, for better or for worse. For better, for worse, this is an opportunity for us to make it all for the better and truly to empower. The Democrats love to talk with their constituents about not having power and all this sort of thing. Well, I'll tell you about power. Let's take the average mom and dad who don't have a lot of money. In fact, they may not even be legal, right? Mm-hmm. But they got their kids at schools that they know are no good. They're little armed camps. They're little mini penitentiaries into which their children are herded in. They got a father who may have a lot of faults, but he's still a man, and he knows that his sons are not confused about who they are, and he doesn't want any sob-sister teacher suggesting to his kid, his son, mi hijo, that somehow he's something other than a man, a boy, right? Straight. They don't want anything to do with that. Yeah, he may not have much, but he's got his fatherly pride, and he doesn't want anybody corrupting his children, showing them a lot of crazy things. And these guys get no respect whatsoever. Now, imagine the scenario after the passage of the School Choice 2020. they have some complaints, and they go into the school, and now all of a sudden this this couple with 3 or 4 kids. I know what you're thinking, man. Illegal immigration. Well, put that out of your brain for a second. These kids, whether we like it or not, are likely to be American citizens because if they're in grammar school, they're born here. So we got 3 or 4 kids here, and when they go in there and they get into it with the principal there, well, the mama and the dad, they are now sitting there controlling anywhere from $45,000 to $60,000 a year of what that sassy teacher feels is her money. Rusty Hicks told her, "It's your money." Well, if they don't like what they're hearing, they say, "No, I think I take my kids, I go to another school." That's right. Talk about power.
Yeah, and these parents, I'll tell you, the parents know better than that school board.
Of course
it doesn't matter
do.
if the parents have a high school diploma, dropped out of high school, have a college or a master's. Each parent, it doesn't matter if the parent is, runs the gamut, whether it's,
That's right.
Pierre and Fifi, whether it's, John and Julie. It doesn't matter. These parents know better what their kids need than any school board member will ever know.
That's right. And let's remember that that's what we really believe at bottom in the United States. And we can move past this. This immigration problem is going to be dealt with one way or the other, excuse me, at some level, but it won't be at our level. Here at our level, at the state and local, we have to face the fact that we have massive numbers of children from other parts of the world who do not share our values. Who do not share our background. So they're coming here, and they're somewhere between Mexico and the United States, culturally speaking. And if we're going to succeed in our country, we're going to have a plan for assimilation, and we cannot accomplish that assimilation through the existing public school system. It just won't work. So we have to experiment to get them out of the hands of people who hate us, get them into the hands of institutions who, whether they love them or not, will treat them as customers and give them the respect that they're entitled to. And the fact is that we can provide a K through 12 education, and for those who want to go beyond and secure more specific vocational training after high school or go on to a regular college, they will have the money to do that, and this will all be at no additional cost. And one last thing here before I get. Nobody's called me, but we got Juan Tierra coming up in a few minutes with Government Grifter of the Week award. But there's one other thing I want to go to. This Measure EE is classic. They say, well, look, we could have better education if you just give us more money, right? How many times have we heard that? And we all know the arguments.
We'd be rich for if we had a nickel for every time we heard that we'd all be billionaires by now.
Exactly. So, they're still trotting out that they never drop the con. No matter what, they never drop the con. Just like at the federal level with this Russia business, they never drop the con. Even when they get caught, Mike, especially when they get caught, they never drop the con. And so these teachers have been caught. I just want to leave you with this, just in case you're tempted not to do what Josh asked you to send out those emails to your friends, to make those phone calls, to text them if you want, to get out that 1/3 plus one vote kills this tax, right? Every vote that you secure is worth 2 because of the way in defeating a measure, because of how tax measures work. They got to get 2/3 plus 1. You guys only need 1/3 plus 1 to beat it. So get out there and do your jobs. If anybody says we should give them some more money and so forth and so on, I give you this example. Let's take one of the big, burly, sassy ones that we see out there on the protest lines, claiming to be for the children. You know, the one that looks like she used to play for the Rams, right? Should have stayed with the Rams. But in any event, she's got about 21-inch guns on her and an attitude. Weighs into 250. We'll call her Shirley with a double Y at the end. And Shirley takes her pickup truck in to get repaired, and she tells the mechanic, "Hey, look, you know, this thing is brand new, and and I bought it and I paid good money for it, and it broke down when I was going out to taking my Harley out to ride with the girls. Right? This whole thing went upside down. I went off the road, ruined my day. Now you got to fix this thing." And they fix it once, they do it a little bit, it doesn't work, do it twice, doesn't do a little bit of work. And finally, the third time she brings it back, I mean, Shirley's hot. Man, she missed her Harley races again, and she is nasty. And she demands to see the manager, and the manager comes out, and she says, "Hey, look, you know, I paid $40,000 for this car. In fact, these days for a really decent pickup, she'd probably paying more than that. But let's just make it $40,000. I paid another $15,000 for my Harley in here, and that thing got dumped over because this piece of junk that you sold me didn't work. Now I want you to fix it." And the manager says to her, "Well, look, you know, things have been tough and so forth. And I think that if you want this pickup fixed, you need to pay another $10,000. Right? Yeah, but it's not for repairs. It's another $10,000. The next time he comes in and says, "Well, I know it's not working yet, but we're working on it. We're bringing our scores up. You need to pay another $10,000. So Shirley paid for this pickup once. She paid for it twice, and he's asked to pay for it a third and a fourth and a fifth time. Well, of course, Shirley would never do this. She'd be outraged. But yet, Shirley, through her union, tells you and me the same damn thing. She tells the parents the same thing. Well, I could deliver the product that I accepted payment for and agreed to deliver. I could deliver it, but I didn't. And the reason I didn't was because you didn't give me enough money. You need to pay for it more and more and more and pay it over again." Don't lose your common sense, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, go out and vote no on EE. We now have music, Maestro, please, Government Grifter of the Week Award coming up.
And now it's time for the weekly Government Grifter Award. And here he is, live from Hollywood, Juan Tierra.
How you doing, Juan? Thanks for coming in. Hey, was that a good convention today or what?
Very good. Excellent afternoon. Very, very informative.
What do you have for us this evening?
Well, I'm going to continue our theme of the overspending LAUSD. Parcel tax scam, Proposition AE. Now, given the fact election is 2 days away on June 4th, your humble researcher is again going to concentrate on that top-heavy bureaucracy. Here are a few facts from Transparent California. LAUSD has 47 failing schools. Graduation rate, about 75%. And in 2017, spent $1.4 billion with a B dollars on health and retirement benefits.
Yes.
That's a 25% increase over 2014.
There you go.
In 2018, the California State Board of Education warned LAUSD if it did not get its house in order financially, the state would have to assume control of the district.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right.
So let's do our nominees for the day. As usual, source, transparentcalifornia.com from 2017. Here are the three most highly compensated district employees. Nominee number one, the highest compensated person with a salary and benefits of $410,000, the general superintendent.
Right.
Number two, second highest compensated person, the assistant general counsel, or lawyer.
Hiss.
That's SEL, not CIL.
Yeah.
Salary and benefits total $350,000. Number three, third highest compensated LAUSD employee, the general counsel, at $345,000, pay and benefits. And winner is, do we have our drum roll tonight? Or
all right, drum roll.
I'm going to go with the person at the top of the food chain in the organizational chart, the general superintendent at $410,000.
There you go. Yeah, and these are, bear in mind that he sits at the top of this heap of a failing institution. We pay him more money. He's going to collect a pension based upon that amount of money. With all of his failures on display, there would be no accountability whatsoever. At $400,000, they talk about poor, underpaid teachers and all this kind of stuff, and yet the UTLA went out there and in part of their negotiation hired more non-teachers rather than allocating that money to existing teachers, made promises to them they couldn't keep and will not be able to keep unless they get this $500 million parcel tax through, and probably will not be able to keep those promises even then because their pension system is upside down. Ladies and gentlemen, what Juan Tierra has told you, and this is the reason why we tell you about these numbers, this is why. They have too many people working for them, they pay them too much, and they pay them for freaking ever. I should say, you do. It's time to say no, and there's no better way to do that than to embrace school choice and start dealing with the biggest part of our California budget, which is the roughly one half that goes to the public so-called school system statewide. How many minutes, Jeff? All right, we've got 2 minutes.
If I may, Mike?
Yes, sir.
If anybody thinks we're making these things up, just go to Transparent California, all one word, lowercase.com. Look up your city, look up your school district, look up your county, and look at some of these numbers, and you see what I mean.
That's right. You're sitting out there, go on your computer, whip out your Obama phone, go on your Safari there, and just look it up. Yeah, don't be a lazy. This is our government, and this is the time that we have to do it. Remember, freedom isn't free. And you and I have to do our part, and I'm proud to count all of you among my audience. This is Mike Alexander, Josh Jacobs, logging out now for... Oh, I got 2 more minutes?
Yeah. Hey.
Oh, okay. I thought he gave me 2 minutes before. Well, thank you, Juan Tierra.
Well, just a reminder to everybody who is just turning in, this coming Tuesday, June 4th, is Election Day in Los Angeles.
Yes.
So if you live in the city of Los Angeles, that includes downtown L.A., it includes Eagle Rock, the San Fernando Valley, most of the cities there, includes the west side, includes the east side. I sound like I'm
Huntington Park, Southgate, Bell, Maywood.
Everything there.
Yeah.
So if you were in those areas,
Commerce,
make sure to go out and vote no on Measure EE. It's a big ripoff. It's an extreme error. However, if you do, and let your friends know, even if you don't live in L.A., let your friends in L.A., conservative, moderate, libertarian, classic liberal, even left people are opposed to this. So let them know to go out and vote no on EE.
That's right. We have to start the reforms here. And like with every other problem, every other bad habit that we have, either individually, organizationally, or as a society, it begins with saying no to the worst things. And we've turned over our lives and our money and our freedoms to these bureaucrats. We start by saying no to them, rebuilding our society from the ground up. Remember, we're Americans. We're the people who put people on the moon. We're in the last 3 letters of American is CAN, C-A-N. That's what we can do. Good to hear from you. We'll see you next week. Josh Jacobs, Mike Alexander, Radio Free Los Angeles. Go to schoolchoice2020.org. Give me some love. Keep the show on the air. Thanks. See you next week.
Goodbye.